there, welcome back to the Grow with Cara show. Today we continue our interview series with successful attorney marketers. We're taking a close look at what's working, what's not working so well, the specific steps these attorneys took to get to where they are. And remember, these are simple steps that you too can follow to get on a similar path to growth. Okay, let's dive in. Today, our special guest is attorney Mitch Jackson. Mitch is a senior partner and founding attorney of Jackson & Wilson, an award-winning personal injury and wrongful death firm here in Orange County, California. We're super excited to have him here. Welcome, Mitch. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Cara, it's so good to see you again. It's great to be here. And I'm excited about the topic today. Let's dive in and change the world for everyone listening to or watching the show.
I love it. I know you have so much to share, so I'm looking forward to getting to all of it. So Mitch, to begin, tell us just a little bit about your story. Why did you start Jackson & Wilson more than 35 years ago?
Instead of maybe going in with a big firm, right? Instead of selling donuts on the corner down in Newport Beach between basketball games. So for me, I grew up on a ranch in Tucson, Arizona. I watched my mom and dad build a business together, and it was a guest ranch. People would come from all over the world and ride horses and hike and play tennis and golf and all kinds of fun things. I watched them build this business together. I decided after having met a few lawyers in town in Tucson, Arizona, that that's what I wanted to do. And no one in my immediate family had gone to college, much less law school. So I'm going to fast forward through all of this, but I took that leap, glad that I did, ended up here in Orange County, California, and realized, Cara, that to stand out as a brand, to stand out and get referrals from new clients or other lawyers, I had to do more than just get a good settlement or a good verdict. This is a tough market to break into. And when I first started practicing, I was playing basketball every single day down Laguna Beach, California at Main Beach. The guys on the court were my first couple of clients, right? That was my networking back in the day. But I also realized when I went into the local bar association meetings in the evenings, this is before internet, this is before social media, it was really hard to have a quality conversation, with more than one person at a time and to really leaving an impact with someone, because once again, the competition was tough back then, and it is today. And what we started doing is I've rode motocross and raced motocross my whole life. And I started riding every Wednesday morning with a group of lawyers in Orange County. Turned out a couple of judges joined us, and we started building relationships, and we started referring cases to each other. And we started really connecting and having fun together as lawyers. When we weren't practicing law, we were, racing motocross. And fast forward to 95, 96, when we put up our first website, 2007, 8, 9, and 10, when we started diving headfirst into social media, what I realized is combining those same hobbies and interests and passions, showing who I am as a human being, it allowed me to stand out above all the noise. And so we kind of doubled down on playing in those sandboxes to build our brand and expand it from local to global. But what I learned from my mom and dad back in the day on the ranch, what I learned from the early days of riding motocross with other lawyers in town and building relationships, what I've seen on social media moving forward all the way to today. We're talking traditional social, recorded and live video, social audio, and now today, Web3 and the metaverse, that same relationship building effort, it's fun, it works, and it brings in big cases to the law firm. So that's the short story as to who I am, where I came from, and why I'm doing what I'm doing today. I wanted to have my own business. I didn't want to have to answer to anyone else. I started my own firm, Cara, because I wanted to represent clients who I believed in, clients that I wanted to represent, instead of a senior partner telling me, you need to represent this person in court this afternoon. Best decision I ever made. The good stuff ends up on my desk. The bad stuff ends up on my desk, but it's allowed us to build a life where we can do what we want to do. We can represent the clients we want to represent, and we can handle the files the way we feel the files need to be handled.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I really look forward to getting into kind of how your relationship building has evolved, sort of as technology has evolved. So we're going to get into all of that. But tell us an idea of size of the firm. How many attorneys do you have? How many support staff?
Sure. So I met my wife in law school. My wife, Lisa Wilson, is my partner. It's Jackson and Wilson. She and I are the two senior partners in the firm. And then we have a support team of anywhere from 3 to 7 team members, whether they're in-house, whether they're now using virtual assistants and virtual contacts to assist us with everything that we used to do in the law firm, which is amazing, by the way. So it just kind of depends on the caseload that we're handling, the types of files that we need to bring in specific experts on. And when I say experts, not the traditional trial experts, but people that are focused on that area of the law, on that particular issue. And we find this to be the case right now. We do a lot of business and technology litigation also. So when we have one of those cases come in, obviously the issues are different than a personal injury or catastrophic injury case. We'll bring in people that are familiar with blockchain, smart contracts, NFTs, DAOs, the metaverse, to help guide us as to what we need to do next to best represent our clients. So the size of the firm varies depending on the needs that we have for that particular year.
That's smart. I'm interested kind of in how you went about recruiting these VAs, these virtual assistants, and how has that kind of changed the firm and how you operate, really?
Well, let's look at when I use VA virtual assistants, for example, at one time we had 2 full-time front office employees answering the phones. And in between phone calls, and we got a lot of phone calls back in the day, this is really before social media, before we used email inboxes and DMs and private messages, which is now a majority of our incoming contacts. That's all they did. And they're full-time, salaried employees, there's work comp, there's insurance, there's benefits. It's expensive to have someone like that answering your phones. I get it. Having a person answer the phone is critically important, but I also realized it wasn't really an efficient business model. Fast forward to the last 15 years with technology advancing, fast internet connections. What we've done, in full disclosure, I am a brand ambassador for Ruby Receptionist because I love what they're doing, is we have outsourced all of our incoming phone calls to Ruby. The calls are answered by live operators. It doesn't matter what we're doing at the office. Doesn't matter if the internet's down in Orange County, California. It doesn't matter what the national issues are. For example, with the pandemic, our phones are professionally answered, properly handled, and then immediately put forward or forwarded to the appropriate individual in our firm. The feedback we're getting from our clients as to the quality of the incoming calls, how they're being handled, I've never experienced before. And we've always focused on client experiences. Like everything we do is about creating an exemplary client experience. So our traditional old school front office answering team was trained correctly, but we all get busy and we all have other things going on in our lives. And what I noticed is having a focused team handling that aspect of our office made all the difference in the world. It freed everyone else up to do other things. It allowed our calls to be handled no matter how stressed I might be or how many hearings I'm in court handling, including all the other lawyers and paralegals and associates and team members in our firm. The calls are getting answered in just a couple of rings and properly handled. So that would be one example of a VA handling a particular aspect of practicing law. The same thing applies to legal research. The same thing applies to creating pleadings or responding to law in motion and things like this. I think delegating and outsourcing to the appropriate third-party entities really can help you be more efficient. You don't want to get away from being hands-on. You have to know the facts. You have to know the law. You want to know exactly what's happening with every aspect of the case. But I think you can farm out some of this stuff to complement that effort.
Yeah.
I was at the end of a 2-week jury trial in Orange County, and an important issue came up on micro, whether or not what was going on in our case was covered by micro or not. And for those of you that don't do medical malpractice, it's an artificial cap on the general damages your client's entitled to. Right now at $250,000, but it is changing, thank goodness. And so I remember coming home and sharing an email with my VA service, going to bed that night, getting up the next morning, and because they were on the other side of the world, a Stanford-trained lawyer working in India had prepared a opposition to emotion that I was able to click and file with the court immediately.
Wow.
I spent about 5 minutes working on it myself.
Not bad.
That was spot on. It helped us prevail on that particular issue. And
Right.
it's something I probably wouldn't have done in-house, just because I didn't need to do it, but I thought, well, if they can pull this off, I'm going to see if it works. And it did make a difference. So I think it's just intelligently delegating, incorporating these services to allow all of us to be more efficient and frankly, have a better quality of life.
Yeah, I think that's excellent advice, especially, that can be one of the biggest growing pains. Small law firms, solo practitioners tell me that, they really are the bottleneck. How do we start to delegate? We don't have the funds to yet hire a full-time. I really love the use and the flexibility of the VA approach. Tell us just briefly about your revenue growth. What has your revenue growth been like over the years?
Well, it's first of all, I will let you know, and I hope you respect this, and I know your audience and community will respect this. Revenue, the names of our clients and things like this, most of that's private and confidential. Generally speaking, from a 30,000-foot level,
Right.
starting off on my own, playing basketball in Laguna Beach, working out of the back of my car, sharing office space. We used to call them Fijian suites back in the day with lawyers that I clerked with. Okay. We worked out deals where they'd let me use their address, their phone number, their conference rooms in exchange for me putting in 10 hours a week on their files, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Back then, starting off, it was extremely low, a lot less than my fellow graduates from law school. But each year building the brand, each year putting in the time, each year hustling and building relationships and referral sources, and frankly, working on my craft, learning how to try cases the right way, giving myself permission to speak from the heart, show my human side in court, approach issues in a different fashion to get those outlier results. As I worked on this year after year after year, the revenue numbers improved and increased. And fast forward to putting up the website in 95, 96, fast forward to social media over the last 15 or 20 years. When I say social media over the last 20 years, think about early bulletin boards, early platforms before Twitter, for example. What we've noticed is by building out our brands, by being unique and memorable in these spaces, those numbers have continued to climb. Instead of getting referrals just from other lawyers in Orange County or Southern California, we're now getting referrals from all over the world. People know who we are. If they have a company that's starting up in California, if they have a friend that was visiting and taking a surfing trip up and down the coast last summer, and God forbid something happened to that friend, we're the firm that's top of mind because of the things that we're going to talk about. So because of all of that, everything has substantially increased year after year after year, even during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that tells me a lot. So it's been an exponential climb since day one. And, knock on wood, knock on wood, it's going to stay that way.
Yeah. So social media, let's get into it a little bit. You really were a social media pioneer. In fact, as you and I talked about, I was hired on at James Publishing nearly a decade ago to help attorneys with their social media
Congratulations.
presence. Yeah. And you were one of the only lawyers in the social media game at that time, right? I was looking to you for inspiration. You've always kind of been on the cutting edge of technology. So tell us about your social media approach now, kind of how it has evolved. And you're also certainly, is it a sizable contributor to lead flow for the firm? Is it more of a personal branding tool? Let's get into it a little bit.
It's all of the above, and I'm excited that we've been connected for so long. So you've gotten to see my mistakes, my hiccups, awkward post, which I continue to learn from everyone. There's no such thing as failure in law, in court, in business, or on social media. We learn from our experiences, right? To some of the things, to some of the wins that being on social has brought to the firm, Cara. So, for example, being out there, just broad brushstroke, has allowed me to be referenced or profiled or mentioned on all the top news shows, marketing books. I've spoken twice at Tony Robbins with my dear friend David Merriman Scott in front of audiences of thousands. All of these things bring your brand to another level when it comes to being a lawyer. I mean, how many lawyers are doing this, right? And that's the reason I'm doing it, is to stand out, to do something different. I want to be speaking in front of 400 young entrepreneurs at Social Media Day San Diego, or at Periscope Summit New York, San Francisco, or Los Angeles, back when Periscope was a thing. Because guess what? I'm the only lawyer in the room. I'm in front of 400 brilliant people that are starting up companies with a couple of Twitter DMs. They haven't even thought about incorporating. They haven't even thought about using written contracts. They haven't even thought about what it meant when they were served with a summons and complaint. And it's something they actually have to respond to. And so by being and purposefully putting myself on these stages in real life, or on the digital platforms, on all the major social media platforms, it allows you to build perceived expertise. It allows you, even more importantly, to add value to the consumer in your audience. And so the first thing I think everyone needs to really double down on, especially the lawyers in our lives, okay, this is critically important, everyone. Add value, answer questions, share your secret sauce. Don't be that late night television commercial on social media. It doesn't work. Nobody likes that. What you want to be is give yourself permission to share your human side. Look at what the trending topics are. What's everybody talking about today? What's everybody talking about this week? And create a post, create a short video, create a social audio conversation on LinkedIn Live Audio or on Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces, and talk about that trending or breaking news story. Add value to the story. Never say, and if this has happened to you, call me. Don't go there as a lawyer on social. Instead, just participate in a thoughtful conversation. The consumer is looking for your expertise so they can better understand this breaking story. Whatever type of practice you're involved with, a breaking news story can somehow be incorporated into your area of practice. If it's a political story and you're a family law attorney, maybe there's an angle there. If this happened to your spouse, which is now resulting in a divorce conversation between the two of you, here are 6 things you probably need to get your ducks in a row moving forward, okay? Or if it's a professional athlete being arrested for something and you're a criminal defense attorney, you can interject your thoughts. Listen, this took place in Florida. We're here in California. In California, if this happened, here are the 3 things that I would tell my client. And you can just do live Q&A with your audience. So I think by giving yourself permission and having the mindset of being a go-giver, as my dear friend Bob Berg wrote in his book, The Go-Giver, that in and of itself sets you apart as a lawyer. Because, Cara, as you know, most lawyers are not using social. Those lawyers that aren't being taught by you, okay, or lawyers that aren't following me, they're not using social media this way. Instead, they're pushing, they're instructing, they're begging for clients, they're asking people to call their 800 number. That's not the way social media works. And once you give yourself permission to approach social media or Web3 or the metaverse through a new lens, that's where the magic happens. And it's easy. It's not complicated, but most attorneys are afraid to share a video of them paddleboarding around the island in Dana Point, or going for a run without having shaved, with a sweaty shirt, you know, at my age, just sucking eggs, trying to, you know, and I'll have a thought, and I'll just stop with my camera, my GoPro, and I'll share a 2-minute video on something I just read about in the news the day before. This is the type of content that's interesting to the consumer. It's entertaining, it's engaging, and it's memorable. And when you create this easy to prepare and distribute content with your community on the digital platforms, that's what separates you from everyone else. It's not hard, it's pretty easy, but despite all of that, most lawyers don't approach social this way.
You're right. Being genuine, being authentic, providing value, that's really where, you know, where we got to be. So Mitch, then how is this sort of being parlayed into leads, into high quality clients, right? So,
Sure.
you know, we're spending time, you know, posting all of these updates and providing this educational value, but are you getting, you know, leads from other attorneys? You mentioned now you've kind of really built this global, you know, referral network. Are you getting leads directly from, you know, folks who are ingesting the content? So tell us about that.
All the above, right? All the above. And so what we're doing is we're creating a resource where if you have a referral, whether you're a past client, whether you're an existing client, you're someone we know in the business community in real life or on digital, whether you're a lawyer on the other side of the world that wants to refer a case to a California firm, we want everyone to know, just give us a call, just shoot us an email, send us a DM. And if we can help your referral, we will. If we can't help your referral, we'll make sure we get him, her, or they over to the appropriate lawyer who we know, like, and trust that may be able to assist them, answer their questions. It's really that simple. One of the most important questions we ask our clients at the end of the initial retention meeting with a client, whether it's in real life or over Zoom or in the metaverse, which we're doing a lot now, we're meeting clients in the metaverse. The last question we ask our clients is, Cara, how would you like us to communicate with you? What works best?
Right.
And then we stop talking and we start listening. And if you say, you know, Mitch, I'm always on Instagram DMs work for me, or can we text each other, or snail mail, which we don't get that very much anymore. Then we make an effort to try to communicate with you, subject to state bar rules, in that way. And most of our communications are minor, unimportant things, just confirming dates or whatever it might be. And we're careful about that. But we make sure that with respect to the referrals that we get, we receive those referrals in a way that the referring party it's easiest for the referring party. And then, Cara, what we've done is we've set up a business model here in California where the state of California, the state bar allows and actually encourages attorney-to-attorney referral fees, right? So what does happen when you build out a brand on social media is you start getting all of these potential cases that you would never handle. Either it's not the type of law that we practice, it's not a substantial matter in the type of law that we do practice. And so what we've built over the last 20 years is a referral database where we refer cases out that come in to lawyers who we know, like, and trust, great reputations, outstanding lawyers in their field, so that the client's best interest is placed first. We're maximizing the referrals opportunity to get a best case result. And in the end, we're also creating a new business revenue source, right? We're talking about business as a law firm. It's a new revenue source that comes back each and every year. So there's a business model to doing everything that I'm doing, and it works really, really well. The secret is to keep it simple. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate everything with complicated programs and databases and things like this. You can do that if you want to, but you don't need to. You can really keep this simple, and it comes down to people skills. I tell all my friends, young trial lawyers that I mentor that are trying to do what I'm doing, I said, listen, the platforms will come and go, but the relationships will last a lifetime. So focus on the relationships. And, in a nutshell, that's kind of the full circle approach that we're using with respect to referrals.
Yeah, super smart. I love that question. What is your preferred form of communication? That's super powerful. You're meeting them where they are. That's a high level of customer service. What is your preferred form of communication? And then you meet them where they are. That's great.
So, Cara, real quick along that question came up and resulted in a $1.6 million case coming to our firm. The lawyer the client originally wanted to meet with, and this is a very young, early 20s client who was a student bouncing around between dorm rooms, didn't have a established mailing address, most college kids. The lawyer was insisting everything needed to be by snail mail. And she's like, this doesn't work for me, right? And so when we asked her that question, and you heard my response, she's like, you're my guy, let's get this done. And 6 months later, we settled the case. Wow. It's the simple questions, it's the simple services that can make the biggest differences.
Yeah, no, that's a gem. That's great advice. So Mitch, you say you're using Web3 and metaverse platforms to help good attorneys become great trial lawyers. Tell us what that means.
Well, digital in general, I just want to make sure that trial lawyers understand we're rolling into a new dynamic when it comes to trying cases, especially post-pandemic, if that's where we are. Everyone's been through a lot. Every single juror's life has been turned upside down. Our witnesses, our experts, the judge, court staff, it's a new world out there. And so what we're telling all of our young trial lawyers that we're mentoring is we want them to lead with empathy in the courtroom. We want them to allow compassion to serve as their compass. And that doesn't mean you can't be firm with a adverse party's witness on the stand, but it does mean you want to approach a cross-examination a little bit different. It means that in today's world, time and attention has never been more challenging to get from the person or people that we're talking to, whether it's a potential client, a community on social media, or 12 jurors in the jury box. And so we want to respect that. And I was on a show with Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you know Gary, but for those of you that don't know Gary, he's got very VaynerMedia, very well known on the digital and social media platforms, big time with Web3 and NFTs. And we're talking about how I'm now picking my juries, speaking in, back then it was 140 character sentences. Now Twitter's 280 characters. But basically, I'm actually talking with my young jurors in a different way. I'm using their language. This is what the young business person's life revolves around right now. And if you communicate with your jurors using metaphors and analogies and examples of what they see every day on their smartphone, the same terminology, the same usage of words and phrases that they might be familiar with, you're going to build rapport. You're going to build this subtle connection. And so we're taking everything that we're doing on social, we're bringing it back into the real world, whether it's during depositions, mediations, arbitrations, or trials, to connect better, to be that leader in the courtroom. I don't know if that specifically answered your last question, but I think it is a takeaway from lawyers spending time on digital and learning how people are communicating in today's world, and then taking that back into the courtroom so that everyone's comfortable. What I've noticed, my kids are 27. AJ's a third-year lawyer at Shepherd Mullen in Century City. My son, Garrett Cara, just graduated from the University of Southern California, Marshall School of Business.
Congrats.
And when I talk, I'm so excited for them, but when I talk to them, they'll say, "Hey, Dad, I just talked with Ben." Say it's my son's friend. "I just talked with Ben, and we're going to hit some golf balls this weekend," right? After I talked to Garrett a little bit more, I realized they didn't really talk.
Right.
What they did is they exchanged text messages, right? And so we need to be aware of that. And we can take what we're learning on digital and Web3 and the metaverse, which I'm doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on, by the way, everybody. It's the next best thing since sliced bread. And taking what we're learning back into our traditional practices. So it's not wasted time. I think it's actually, sharpening the knife, shall we say, when it comes to, slicing our way to success. And so I don't feel like my time's being wasted at all. As a matter of fact, I think it's made me a better communicator. I think it's helped me bring in new clients, and it's helped me get better results in the courtroom.
So when you talk about Web3, metaverse, these terms might be going over the heads of some of our audience members, right? So let's give a little bit of context. What are we talking about specifically, and how do you kind of see it evolving in the future?
Well, first of all, I want everyone to know that these terms, Web3, metaverse, blockchain, smart contracts, NFTs, DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, these are all new technology concepts. And when I say new, specifically over the last couple of years, but they've been around for the last 5 or 10 years, depending on which item we're talking about. It's not any more complicated than getting ready for your first deposition. I want all of you to really think about how stressed you were and how much time you put in to taking that first deposition. You had 10 pages of outlines. You were, 6 coffees before you walked in. I get it. I've been there. Fast forward to today, getting ready for a deposition, you literally could do it with your eyes closed without a single note. Web3 is the same way. Put in the 10 or 20 hours to kind of learn about the things that we'll talk about today or that I've already mentioned. And you'll find that the concepts are already what you know, but they're just being presented to you in a different way, a different type of contract. Now it's a digital contract, a different way of communicating. Instead of over the phone, text, email, maybe a Zoom, now you're in a virtual reality space. You're in the metaverse, communicating using your avatars. Your avatars may be a 100% avatar where you can pick and choose how you look. It could be an avatar where Kara's face using a webcam or uploading a picture from her phone or desktop is artificially integrated to an avatar body that she can select. So when Kara and I are in the same virtual office space that we are using right now, I feel like I'm in the room with her. If you've never used a headset, an Oculus Quest 2, for example, I think it's probably the most important, valuable business purchase you can make this year. $300, $400, and using an Oculus Quest puts you into these platforms where you feel like you're in the same room with someone. You can actually manipulate objects and share video presentations and photos of a case or settlement procedure. For example, we are planning on walking claims adjusters and defense attorneys through, imagine an art gallery, but instead of art, it's a chronological display of photos, videos, and jury instructions, medical reports, so that we can walk through together. And you do feel like you're walking through together. I'm not kidding, everybody. It's amazing using your headsets. And, basically communicating to the other side what happened to our clients. There's a call to action at the end, which would be, this is our settlement demand. Now you know why. Two things are going to happen. Either you're going to get the case settled, or number two, once you're done with the experience, the other side's going to be talking about how blown away they are with what you just did. And you know what? If Mitch is willing to put this much time into creating this type of settlement proposal, imagine what he and his team are going to do at trial. Now, a little secret for everyone, it takes us about 15 minutes to do what I just said. That's how simple this stuff is. If you have the photos on your hard drive, you simply click and import them into your virtual space. You can drag them on the wall. You're good to go. That's how easy it is. I'm not going to tell the other side that. And the other thing that we do as lawyers is I'm trying to teach other lawyers and professionals how we communicate in court, how we make our point, how we use metaphors and anchor points in the courtroom. If I'm talking about something positive in my case, I'll be down at the right end of the jury box, between the jury box, the witness stand, and the judge behind me. I have authority standing behind me, and I'm looking at my jurors. That's always the spot I'll stand when I'm trying to make my point on something positive. If it's something negative, I'll go to the other end of the jury box and quickly and concisely state what I have to say or present the evidence that has to be presented. I want to ring that bell first. You do the same thing in the metaverse. You can use your avatars to work the room. You use different anchor points. You use voice inflection when you're speaking. You use metaphors, analogies, and storytelling when you're presenting. So if I'm in the metaverse with board of directors from 6 different companies around the world, think about this for a second. Instead of them having to fly in, they're in a beautiful conference room with a laptop screen in front of each one of them, with me standing at the end with a large screen behind me where I'm displaying my presentation, my PowerPoint, my whiteboard. It feels like we're there. The image is just crystal clear. It's between 2 and 4K, as good as Zoom. It's an experience that's inexpensive to create, memorable to host, and works really well when it comes to closing deals. So I think, Kara, for professionals and especially lawyers that start spending the time to learn how to tap into the power of these spaces, are going to be those lawyers positioning themselves for future success 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. There's a reason why Fortune 500 and 1,000 companies are spending millions or tens of millions of dollars on this type of technology. When it comes to non-fungible tokens, NFTs, what's interesting is both in the UK and New York, the courts have approved in specific cases service of a ruling or service of notice through an NFT. And NFTs, everyone, write that down. They're going to change the world. I'm not talking about crazy looking CryptoPunk NFTs being sold or Bored Ape NFTs. I'm talking about a technology that allows you to confirm ownership of an item, whether it's an asset, whether it's a court order, whether it's a pleading with the courthouse. And what's going to be happening over the next 3 to 5 years, and I guarantee you this is the way it's going to work, is when you create a pleading, when you create an email, when you create an exhibit, you're going to right mouse click and you're going to convert it into an NFT. You don't have to know technology to do this. You're going to click another button. It's going to be filed with the court. It's going to be served on opposing counsel. It's going to be sent over to a client. That NFT is unlockable. That gives the client access to back-end support in your law firm, communication portals, private videos on how to prepare for a deposition, whatever it might be, how to be a witness at trial. This is the technology that's going to change the world. Every industry is going to be embracing and incorporating it into their business or practice. So from a marketing and branding standpoint, Cara, what I'm thinking is by getting involved now and by learning this technology, simply by using it and asking the right questions. And when I host metaverse meetups, which I do each and every week, I have people from all over the world come into our virtual penthouse, which is just gorgeous, right? It overlooks the city of Miami. We have an outdoor helicopter pad. We've got a beautiful dance floor, bar, and upstairs media center. We've got a media room downstairs. It's really impressive. We can have meetings there with VIP guests, right? That's a little bit more interesting than a Zoom. It's more impressive than a phone call. It literally took us 1 or 2 hours to set up using some of the services and companies that we have relationships with. If we're in a group setting and you and I decide, Mitch, I want to talk to you about a particular legal issue, I can click a button and take you and I into our private conference room.
Right.
And we can have a private conversation and I can close the deal. If I know you're going to be there, I can set up a private conference room with your logo and branding already in there, maybe with your most recent YouTube marketing video in that room, so that, Cara, when I bring you in, you're going to look around and it's like, wow, they actually put a lot of time and thought into this possible meeting. And what you don't know is, once again, it took 15 minutes of my team's time to click and set this up. These platforms are available from our smartphones, our tablets, our laptops, and our desktops. The best experience is using an Oculus Quest or other compatible headset. It's game-changing technology that has opened up so many doors and so many opportunities, both in the law and outside the law, when it comes to speaking, when it comes to book deals, when it comes to investment opportunities, than I've ever been exposed to in 36 years of practicing law, 40 years of being an entrepreneur. So yeah, if you hear excitement in my voice, I'm super excited about this. And I want all of my friends in the legal profession to double down on this technology, because it's not going anywhere other than simply increasing in popularity. And I do think it's going to have a greater impact. I'm talking about Web3 technology. It's going to have a greater impact on society and our culture than probably the printing press, which was invented back in the 1400s. That's how big this is. But circle back in 5 or 10 years and see whether or not I was right or wrong.
I'm willing to bet on you, Mitch. And the thing is too, well, the Oculus Quest experience is impressive. And you talk about standing out. I mean, what better way to stand out? I mean, not many firms are doing this at this point. How do you kind of stay up to speed with rapidly changing technology? Do you have resources or sources to share? Do you have vendors to recommend to partner with?
All the above. And yes, I play in sandboxes that most lawyers aren't in, right? And for me, it's interesting. It keeps life interesting. Even after 36 years of practicing law, I'm more excited today about practicing law than I ever have been in my life.
Wow.
A lot of lawyers can't say that after 10 years of practice, much less 3 decades, right? So yes, what we do is we're tapped into all of the different Web3 discords. We're tapped into all the different movers and shakers in the different industries that I just mentioned. We do shows each week with industry leading professionals, people that are either representing a lot of the companies that you read about and see every single day on your phone in the Web3 space. A lot of these people are my friends. And so I'm constantly getting exposed to what's coming up next, what we need to focus on, what works and what doesn't, what's hype and what's real. And what I have tried to do is I've shared some resources, which I can share with you if you want, or for your show notes, where people and lawyers can come in and they can immediately get up to speed on what we're talking about if they want to. I'd be happy to share the resources
That would
with
be
you.
great.
So
Yeah.
just let me know.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a weekly LinkedIn newsletter, for example, and I think it's titled Web3 Business and Law. And so each week I'll do a different newsletter issue talking about how to communicate in the metaverse or what my favorite platforms are. For example, I want to be in a platform that looks polished and professional. I'm not interested in being in a platform that makes me look like a Lego piece or a cartoon character, right?
I think that might be a common misconception, right? Is
I think
that
so.
that professional, you can be very professional, and that's the whole point of this, is to create that impressive professional environment, right?
Do you want to see a quick 60-second video of some of the spaces I've mentioned? I can screen share it with you if you want.
That would be
Should we
great.
give it a try real quick? All right,
let's do it.
Let's give it a try. Let's see if I can do it. Because
Okay.
telling people about this is it's like trying to give somebody a haircut over the phone.
Right.
It's really hard. So I'm going to walk you through real quick a couple of my favorite platforms. All right, let me see if let's see if it works.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me bounce back out. Let me go to there. Let me go to there. Yeah, let's see. There, I think this might actually work. Let's see. You tell me, can you see the video?
Yep, perfect.
All right, so this is the Engage platform. It's one of their, I had the sound turned down, conference rooms. You can see how you can display videos and other items up on the big screen. You can have your team, you can have guest clients sitting at the conference table, and you can see how beautiful the platforms are. I'm bringing up a business card, clicking a couple of buttons. That could be a video, it could be a PowerPoint. I just wanted everyone to see kind of what it looks like. I have a friend who's a professor at Chapman University, Professor Nicholas Meir, AKA the social media professor. I wanted him to see what that looked like. You can do a large presentation, kind of like my Tony Robbins presentations, and fill up these types of spaces with guests. Let me forward to, here's a courtroom, everyone, where this is the case of the missing chicken. You can bring, let me pause this. You can bring your client in, let them sit down in the witness stand where the judge sits over in the jury box, and really walk them through the experience. This was just something we quickly put together. And by the way, the people you just saw are literally from all over the world. Some are friends of mine, some are just guests for that particular session. That's Chrissy Lightfoot out of the UK, one of the most well-recognized LinkedIn legal professionals. John Watts is a lawyer. That gentleman is out of Germany. That's the chicken, and John's a lawyer on the East Coast. We're just playing around, showing everyone how it's done. Let me just see. Yeah, it's kind of cool, but I want to show you. This is another setup where I'm actually sitting at my desk, using my keyboard, using my screen. You can have meetings with people sitting across from you. What we're doing is screen sharing a video of Casey Neistat, showing people the different office spaces you can click and select. Obviously, there are multiple configurations. Here's a friend of mine standing up front showing what it looks like to present from these types of spaces. Let me see if, yeah. So that should give everyone just an idea of some of the spaces that we're talking about. You know, and I'm really partial to a platform called Spatial, SPATIAL.io. And the reason I like Spatial is that it's user-friendly with respect to phones, tablets, laptops, desktops. It integrates great with the Oculus Quest 2. You can click and actually set up a template office, a template conference room within 60 seconds. It's easy to use, right? You have full control of the room. So if somebody comes in and you don't want them in, you can mute them or bounce them out. When you come into Spatial and you connect with me, you'll also see my penthouse suite. And what it is it's an environment we purposefully set up where we wanted to knock the socks off of potential clients or existing clients. And it's this gorgeous environment where we're holding roundtable conversations about trending Web3 topics. And you know, it's just one of these things that allows you to be unique and different, like we talked about at the top of the show. If anyone has questions about how we're doing this, you know, I love this stuff. Cara, all they have to do is just reach out and I'll hold their hand and walk them through it.
Super generous. Thank you, Mitch. We really appreciate that. So I did want to mention just quickly, the Jackson and Wilson website, it's incredibly robust. It's loaded with helpful content, FAQs, ebooks, newsletters. You have tons of videos on there. You have an entire self-help center for visitors, right? So why is it important to educate your prospective clients, going along with everything we've been talking about with social media, right? Kind of provide them with real value, allow them to really meet you and Lisa on the site before they ever actually reach out to the firm. Why is it so important to have all of those resources so readily available to your prospective clients?
It builds perceived expertise. It shows the consumer that we're trying to help and we're adding value. It, I think, reflects our database of experience and decades of results that consumers either directly or indirectly assume we can bring these talents to the table to help them. I think the more value that we can share and display, the better it is. Now, here's a little marketing or branding tip that we may not have even transitioned over to, but I think it's super important. The law firm website that you're thinking of, jacksonandwilson.com, is a traditional lawyer website, okay? Years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we set up mitchjackson.com. It's a WordPress blog, everyone. It was free at the time. I think I've upgraded it a little bit, but it's basically a free WordPress blog that we're using to share our technical Web3 social media conversations. It has nothing to do with my law firm. And what we're noticing, Cara, is that the people that are connecting with me because of Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or the Web3 or the metaverse over at mitchjackson.com, many of these people don't even know about Jackson and Wilson. Okay. And so we're creating venues or community areas that correlate to the interest that our community members have. And I think that's really, really important. I would not be able to get many of my young Web3 social media digital entrepreneurs to spend any time with me over at my traditional law firm website. They don't even like lawyers, okay? Until they get to know us, right? Once they get to know you, it's like, geez, I had no idea that, you know, you're a nice guy and that you really want to help. Yeah, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I love sports. There's a lot more to me than just practicing law. So I've created another platform that allows me to share all of these other things. And I want your audience to think about doing the same thing, whether that platform is simply an Instagram account where you're sharing your cooking or your golfing or whatever the hobbies are that you have. You can do that in an Instagram feed. People will start to connect with you because of your shared hobby interest. And then guess what? When it eventually becomes known that, oh, wait a minute, you're a lawyer too. I mean, you whip up a mean omelet, and I've never seen so many really cool omelet recipes. I didn't know you were a lawyer and a chef. I've got a legal matter I need help with. Can I call you? So that's kind of what we're doing. A friend of mine, Jay Baer, who's a very well-known marketing expert. If you go to mitchjackson.com, at the top of the recommendations tab, you're going to see a interview I did with Jay, and he's a world-renowned marketing expert. He has some very nice words to say about me. And so we took that content, recommendations, testimonials, and we purposefully put that there because I think third-party recommendations are more valuable than anything I would ever say. You know, it doesn't come across like I'm conceited. It doesn't come across like I'm just tooting my own horn. This is what third parties are saying. The reason I'm bringing Jay up is last night I was on TikTok. I love TikTok, and I'm thumbing through some things. Jay has a completely separate tequila channel on TikTok where he is a tequila expert, everyone. I didn't know this. Now, the reason Jay and I connected, it wasn't because of marketing and branding. It was because he also went to the University of Arizona, as I did, you know, bear down Wildcats. And that's kind of where we started talking. We found out about this on social. Years later, the relationship has turned personal and professional. But what Jay's doing over on TikTok is he's getting tens of thousands of likes and follows and connections from fellow tequila lovers. And I don't even think he's mentioning his marketing, branding, and consulting service in that TikTok feed.
Smart.
But trust me, it will come out.
Right.
And I think lawyers can do the same thing. What do you enjoy doing? Where can you build out a platform complementing that interest? And you're going to have fun creating the content, and then watch what happens. That's what works really well on social.
Yeah, spot on, Mitch. And before we wrap up, I always like to ask, if a lawyer watching only has time to adopt maybe one or two of your tips that you shared today or something else, what would you recommend?
I would recommend, regardless of the platform, regardless if it's on traditional Web 2 or Web 3, think about creating content around breaking news stories. Think about creating content around trending topics. What's everyone talking about right now? This could be in the sciences, it could be in the environment, it could be in a new court case breaking in California, it could be in technology, politics, whatever it might be, and integrate your opinion, whether it's through a social audio, whether it's a video, whether it's a short blog post that you're sharing and repurposing on all the major platforms. Share your 2 cents worth. This is called newsjacking, and David Merriman Scott is the godfather of newsjacking. I was doing it before I met David. I didn't know that's what it was called. Once we connected through my daughter, by the way, we've become good friends, and we've done some amazing projects together. But what I was going to say is David has a book on Amazon, and he's a best-selling author, everybody, but he also has this little ebook. I think it's like $1 or $5 on how to newsjack. Get the book because there's a right and wrong way to do it. If you're newsjacking the right way, amazing things can happen. If you go about it the wrong way, for example, you're talking, and lawyers do this all the time. They're newsjacking a breaking story regarding a truck accident in town, okay, where there was a fatality. And they pretend like they're talking about this, and then it's like, call me if you're a victim in this accident. That's not the right way to newsjack. If you're talking about a national disaster and you happen to be selling generators, okay, that's not the way to newsjack. You genuinely want to add your 2 cents into the story. For example, when I was down at Strands Beach doing a run, the Bill Cosby story broke, putting drugs into women's, cocktails. My daughter was just getting ready to go to UCLA at the time. So this was a few years ago. I stopped, I saw this story. I went live on Twitter or Periscope, whatever it was, and I shared a quick thought. I'm reading about this. I have no idea what Mr. Cosby did or didn't do. In California, if this happened, this would be the civil side of it. This would be the criminal side of it. And by the way, as a dad with his daughter going to UCLA, going to a university, this is my biggest fear. And if this happened, then, there needs to be consequences. I shot this video, came home, took a shower, went into the office, and within 3 hours, I had a dozen inquiries from reporters from around the country to talk to me about that case, because I added something different to the story. I added what would happen civilly and or criminally if this was in California. And they heard a dad with a daughter who happened to be a lawyer sharing his passionate thoughts about it. You want to be polite, you want to be professional, you want to be objective, but there's a right and wrong way to do it. So get David's book, and my advice would be talk about trending topics, do newsjacking, regardless of the platform that you're on. That's where I would start.
Excellent advice, Mitch. You've been super generous with your time and your knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. It was a lot of fun.
My pleasure, Cara. I'm always here for you, and thanks for all you do.
From today's interview, it's clear to see Mitch has long been an early adopter of new technology, beginning with his robust website in 1995. So from blogs to social media, now the metaverse, Mitch's tech choices have been spot on. In this interview, I paid special attention to his recommendations to, one, build community of prospects, right? Build communities of prospects. Mitch is a master at sort of putting himself in front of tech entrepreneurs, demonstrating his understanding of their turf, his writing, his speaking, regularly build his brand as a tech leader and keep him top of mind with his prospects. Two, embrace new tech, right? As websites, social media, video have all become necessary components to lawyer marketing, the metaverse will do the same. As been the case with the other tech advances, early adopters will certainly benefit the most. Number 3, create a nationwide referral source with social media. Mitch has done this so masterfully, right? And then in turn, create a database of sources to which you can refer cases outside of your specialty. These two networks can materially increase your revenue. And lastly, number 4, magnify your social following with newsjacking. The single most effective way to draw attention is to sort of piggyback on the news of the day or the news of the week, those trending topics. What's everyone talking about right now? Professionally adding your insights will help viewers understand and certainly interpret what's happening, right? So big thanks to Mitch for sharing his spot on advice with us today. It was a lot of fun. Everyone, please join us for another episode of the Grow with Cara Show happening very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.